just average in the other ways. We want to acknowledge that here at the church, we're standing on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We offer a warm welcome to our guests today, and we'd like to get to know you better. So after the service, join us in the social hall for coffee and refreshments. And if you grab one of these red mugs, it'll let us know that you're new here and encourage people to come up and share a little bit more about us and get to know you. Our mission states that we're a liberal faith community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. Our guest today, the Reverend Dr. Jim Macomber, will lead our service entitled Farewell to the First. Reverend Macomber has supported this church on many occasions. So many I hesitate to call him a guest. He feels more like a member and a part of us. He's helped us through the COVID experience, and he's helped us on many occasions in holding ourselves together. Again, a warm welcome to our Sunday service. I'll let you know that our music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst, and our wonderful choir, and welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
You know, when I was a lay member before I went off to seminary in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we had a similar thing, only they were green cups, and we asked the visitors to take a green cup, and we'd know who they were. And so some of us realized that they weren't that good at welcoming visitors, so if I wanted to be left alone during coffee hour, I just took a green cup. And I know you guys are a lot better at welcoming visitors than they ever were. So, bless you. I'm going to struggle a little bit with the light today, and I'll explain. Welcome to religious community. From many paths and with diverse needs we come. If you have come here seeking comfort, may your pain be soothed. If you have come here looking for answers, may you find new questions. If you have come here seeking purpose, may your call be awakened. If you have come here hoping to build a new way, may the path open before you. Thank you. Let's see, what's next, Mark?
Let's go ahead and sing a hymn, Building
Okay.
Bridges, in the Teal Hymn Book, 1023. 1023. And this is a round, so we're singing it together one time, and then we will sing it 2 additional times in a round with the first row up here singing first, and then the back row will follow them. And you may follow whoever you like. I'm going to play it through first. Together.
Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, as we reach out to visions. I reach out to you, in all of our visions. With friends we could make such sweet harmonies. Building bridges between our divisions. I reach out to you, as you reach out
I light our chalice with these words, I breathe. I breathe in the warmth of this light, its glow filling the spaces where fear and doubt reside. I breathe out the tension I carry. I release what no longer serves me. I breathe in the strength of our community, a sanctuary of diverse voices and shared purpose. I breathe out the urge to go it alone. I embrace the power of togetherness. I breathe in the courage to speak the truth, even when it trembles on my lips. I breathe out the silence that holds me back. I make space for honesty and justice. I breathe in the hope of transformation, knowing we are here to build and to heal. I breathe out despair, trusting that change is born in small acts of love. As we light this chalice, may each breath remind us of the sacred rhythm of life, the pulse of creation, and the power we hold to shape the world around us. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal faith. We'll now read together our congregation's covenant. We strive to look for and to encourage the best in each other as we move toward justice, peace, and love for both ourselves and the world. And when we fall short, we will seek understanding, reconciliation, and return to covenant. Next, we'll sing The Spirit of Life, number 123 in the Gray Book.
There we go. It's on now. Can you all hear me? All right. I heard tell that there were some young folks here pretty regularly. So I'd like to invite any young folks down in front here, maybe sit on the steps and join me. And actually, I'm asking for a little help. Is what I'm asking for, because I may need a light and I may need you to hold it for me. Well, at least you can hold the Frisbee for me. This is all right. All right. Thank you for coming down. Okay. So. Hi, how are you this morning? You know what that is? You know what it is? You know what it is? You know what it is. It's a Frisbee, isn't it? Okay. Now, you're not going to throw it, are you? Okay. You're going to hold the Frisbee, and so you're going to kind of do the the honors with what the Frisbee's doing here. I'm going to be telling a story about the Frisbee, and we're going to do that with a little extra light. Thank you very much. So, here's this Frisbee. He got tired of just being a Frisbee. He got tired of sailing to and fro and to and fro, and thought about the things, other things, that he might like to do. So, next time that they threw him, he turned there in the sky and sailed away to try and find some new things he could try. He tried to be an eyeglass, but no one could see him. He tried to be a UFO, but everybody knew him. He tried to be a dinner plate. And actually, that looks like one of my dinner plates. It does. But he got cracked and quit. He tried to be a pizza, but he got tossed and baked and bit. He tried to be a hubcap on a car, but the cars all moved too quick. He tried to be a record, but the spinning made him sick. He tried to be a quarter, but he was too big to spend. So he rolled home, quite glad to be a Frisbee once again. You know, we all try changes in our lives, don't we? We try different things. What's your favorite color?
Orange.
Okay, suppose tomorrow you decide that orange is not going to be your favorite color anymore, and you decide to make blue your favorite color. You could do that, right? If you wanted to. And the next day after that, you might change back to orange, and you might stay blue. It doesn't matter. It's okay. It's what makes you feel right. And so we're going to be talking about change today. And sometimes we make changes and they stick. And sometimes we make changes and we go back to the way we used to be. It's all okay. It's all okay. Thank you very much for listening. We'll sing you out now, I believe.
Yes, thank you for giving top manners.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
My wife always tells me there's an 11-year-old boy always lurking inside. I really want to throw a Frisbee right now. Now is the time in our service when we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. You may drop your donations in the plate when it is passed or donate online. We thank you, and your generosity is greatly appreciated.
Picture this, a world at peace. Maybe so, maybe just artistic license. Still
I've chosen some words for meditation from an old friend of mine, Chris Bice. He's the minister, has been for many, many years, the minister of the Tennessee Valley UU Church in Knoxville. Make instruments of your peace. Where there is indifference, may we bring justice. Where there is selfishness, may we bring equity. Where there is stagnation, may we find transformation. Where there is homogeneity, may we bring pluralism. Where there is isolation, may we bring interdependence. Where there is greed, may we bring generosity. And where there is hatred, may we bring love. Make us instruments of your peace, with love at the center of everything we do. Let us enter together into the silence. And amen. The days are gone when I could stand for 20 minutes, stiff-legged, and then still move around afterwards. So good morning. It's very special to see all of you again. And in case you're relatively new, I'm the Reverend Jim Macomber, a frequently retired Unitarian Universalist minister. I was originally scheduled to preach March 5th, but had to change when I came down with COVID after having dodged it for nearly 5 years. As it turned out, it was a mercifully short case, thanks to Paxlovid and to my wife Ina, and her efforts in dealing with several out-of-stock local pharmacies in our neighborhood. Anyway, we changed the date to today. And let me thank you for having me back. Some of you know I've been having some vision problems, and it's been problematic. This for several months now. I'm receiving right now treatment for wet macular degeneration in my left eye, which unfortunately is my good eye, and it's getting a little bit better, but I have had to make some changes. Sometimes we make changes because we wish to experiment. Sometimes we just have to make changes. I used to write sermons, first in a pencil draft, because that was the quickest way for me to get my thoughts in order. Then I would type my draft into the word processor. Oh, no. Like that. Editing heavily along the way. Then I'd do a few more edits and a proofread, and voila, there I'd have it. 2,200 words of sheer brilliance ready to preach. Well, maybe occasional brilliance. Okay, maybe a good idea every now and then. But I've had to change. I've had to learn how to use a microphone, not very well, I fear, and dictate a draft into the word processor, and then painstakingly edit using great big fonts and lots of light. That's been a tough thing to change, but change is sometimes necessary. Sometimes whether we want to or not. You see, my topic today is really about change. Specifically, the change to our UU bylaws, Article 2 specifically of those bylaws, that will see the editorial elimination of our beloved 7 principles. I think many of us who've been around here a little while know about these principles. They are indeed beloved. They appear in our gray hymnal, in the front matter of our gray hymnal, right there in print. They are in print in the Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, and they are up on the screen here right now. I'm not sure it's at 7 all in one screen. May not be able to read them all, but they are there. sometimes it becomes necessary to change our way of being, whether we want to or not. Sometimes we voluntarily make changes, and at some point we revert back to the way we were, like the Frisbee did, or we embrace those changes. They work for us, and we feel comfortable with them. Sometimes the changes we undertake are better in some way than they used to be, the way we used to be. And so the change becomes permanent. Sometimes an entire community explores changes and emerges from that process with new goals and purposes, not to mention some conflict along the way, usually. So this is the type of change that we UUs are going through right now. The 7 principles have been with us for a fair number of years, about 40. They are explicitly a part of Article 2, the UUA bylaws, and they represent a comprehensive summary of the foundation of our ethical religion. They have served as the inspiration for countless sermons, some of mine among them. When someone would ask, a visitor perhaps, just what do you Unitarian Universalists believe anyway? And incredulously. Well, I would say we are all about these 7 principles. And that always gave me a good basis for a coherent answer to that ongoing question from folks who are not familiar with our traditions. For me and many others, the most important single principle is the first: the inherent worth and dignity of every person, no exceptions. It's fair to say that's the principle I will miss most when the 7 disappear. In a nutshell, here is what is happening. An appointed group has been studying Article 2 of our bylaws with an eye toward updating them. Their work has led to a major, some would say radical, revision, whereby the concise 7 principles no longer exist. That is not to say that the ideas and some of the language is being discarded. Rather, their revisions are intended to explain not just ethical aspirations, but what we UUs should be doing to achieve our religious visions. Needless to say, serious conflict has arisen because of the loss of the actual statement of the 7 principles. And to be frank, I'm not particularly happy about losing them, especially for me, the first principle. However, the 7 principles have not been around immutable for years and years and years and years. They have been a consistent work in process. Let me share some excerpts, lengthy one or two, excerpts from a sermon I preached to my Atlanta congregation in 2007 to prove my point. Thanks to memory sticks and things like that. Here we go. We're now in 2007. Let me share with you some of the history of the principles, a history which is particularly important to us this year, 2007. At the 1961 merger of the Unitarians and the Universalists, delegates approved new UUA bylaws. Article 2 included a series of 7 principles. A few of these principles resemble the current 7, but they were collectively quite different. One of them read as follows. It was the third. We affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth and dignity of every human personality, and the use of the democratic method in human relationships. It's a sort of a combination of our current first principle and the 5th principle. But by 1977, many Unitarian Universalists had become less than enamored of the principles buried in the denominational bylaws. Many believed those principles were not gender neutral. They were undervaluing of women and youth, and that principles need to be highlighted, not hidden. And several years of confrontation and General Assembly resolutions, a UUA board appointed a committee, and it was formed, and in 1981 then finally, commissioned to develop a statement of principles and purposes and sources. The committee struggled for a couple of years, not getting much of anywhere. However, their efforts eventually began to self-organize and come together. They had a document ready for the 1984 General Assembly. We're now, 23 years into being Unitarian Universalists at this point. It was debated in plenary sessions, and because we are UUs, plenty of amendments were offered. Scores of amendments. About the only significant amendment was the addition of the word liberty to the 6th principle. Not much, in other words. What they had come up with was, it stood. In 1985, final approval was voted by well over the 2/3 minimum for revising the bylaws. At the Atlanta General Assembly, this all was passed in 1985. The principle that most of us now are quite comfortable with are only about 22 years old. It's 2007, remember, we're now at 40. Okay. End of flashback. We're back here. One point I was making in that sermon is that Article 2, our documented principles and beliefs, have been in a state of flux ever since the 1961 merger of the Unitarians and the Universalists. Change to the principles is not some new, surprising phenomenon. But I believe that we have always needed the first principle, that first one, or something like it anyway, as part of our credo. It needs to be there. Why? Well, let me take us back once again to that 2007 sermon. Here we go. I'd like to share a story, a parable really, about our first principle. It's a true and sad story from our movement's history. We're talking about the year 1914. 1914, and the beginning of World War I. We were a non-participant, as you know, at first. Isolationism was the hallmark, really, a sort of sober disengagement as World War I began and heated up miserably. American Unitarians, in spite of President Wilson's appeal for nonpartisanship, began to side with British Unitarians and against the Central Powers. Unitarian church school children sent contributions to Boston to be delivered to the suffering children of Belgium. In New York, Unitarian minister John Haynes Holmes preached 9 consecutive sermons on force versus non-resistance, clearly pacifist messages. Nevertheless, the entry of the U.S. into the Great War in 1917 focused considerable denominational energy in support of the American war effort. The conflict between the Unitarian doves and hawks exploded at the General Conference, the predecessor to General Assembly, in September of 1917. The moderator presiding over the meeting was none other than former President of the United States and Unitarian, William Howard Taft. In his opening address, Taft exhorted, quote, "It is the duty of our church to preach the righteousness of the war and the necessity of our winning it is in the interest of the peace of the world. And I hope this conference will express emphatic approval of all that President Wilson and the Congress have been doing to win this war. The chair of the council of the conference was John Haynes Holmes. And he began to deliver his report as Taft settled into his seat. Denouncing the war, Holmes said, "This war has marshaled whole populations in the work of death. Millions are dead, wounded, maimed, and still the fight goes on with a determination as wonderful as its cost is frightful." Holmes pleaded for a full, free, and fair statement of all points of view. Enraged, Taft yielded the moderator's chair long enough to launch a tirade from the floor. He called Holmes' report an insidious document and berated Holmes for even bringing it to the conference. Holmes replied, "So long as I live and breathe, I will have nothing to do with this or any war, so help me God." To that, Taft replied, "Our house is afire, and it is no time for considering whether the firemen are using the best kind of water." That made for his motion then, Taft's motion, which reads in part, "It is the sense of the Unitarian Conference that this war must be carried to successful issue. Carry out the war." The motion passed 236 to 9. A few months later, the directors of the American Unitarian Association invoked sanctions against parish ministers. They said, partial quote here, "Any society which employs a minister who is not a willing, earnest, and outspoken supporter of the United States in the vigorous and resolute prosecution of the war cannot be considered for aid from the association." How's that for expression of free faith? Not to mention worth and dignity. John Haynes Holmes' response was to withdraw from the AUA and form a movement of community churches. His movement, his church, was anchored by New York's Riverside Church, where Holmes eventually would be succeeded by the likes of Harry Emerson Fosdick and William Sloane Coffin. That vote, 236 to 9, spawns two thoughts on my part. First, We as a nation are now in the midst of a war on foreign soil. 2007, remember? And my sense of where we are as a religious community is that there would be a similarly lopsided vote, only this time against the government, at that point in time. Should a supermajority have license to marginalize the minority? Our Unitarian forebears regrettably thought so during World War I. Shall we forget about the inherent worth and dignity of those who disagree with us? Doesn't our first principle argue against such marginalization? I say to myself, well, it ought to. But I'm not so sure about how well we do in practice. Some might say, well, this is really about one of our other principles, or something that, it's about democracy and justice and democratic process and all those sorts of things. But voting means there are going to be losers. My response: the first principle makes no exceptions. Inherent worth means being born with value as a human, regardless of our gifts or challenges. To be human is to have value, and to be human calls for a statement, an assumption of dignity in all people, no exceptions. But what if someone abuses you or me repeatedly? Are they still persons of worth? And what about those personifications of evil that plague humanity from time to time? Adolf Hitler, Osama bin Laden, and the like. Does the first principle deny the existence of evil? No. Are we supposed to ignore the acts of evil which occur in our lives? When someone is being abusive of me or others, affirming the abuser's worth and dignity means not treating that person vengefully. Responding in kind with abuse or torture is out of line. A belief in the inherent worth and dignity of the other is much more about how I will behave than about the qualities that exist in that other person. Abusers are humans, And it does no good to treat them as subhuman. It diminishes us more than it punishes them. The need to remember abusers, criminals are not born that way. They have inherent worth. Some nexus of causes in their lives train them to abuse others. It does not excuse that kind of behavior, but it does mean that we need to help break the cycle, to help the next generation grow up differently. But why? Why all this focus? Why is all this important to us in 2007? Because the UUA Commission on Appraisal is considering, they are studying the principles and the purposes with an eye toward revising them, or not. The Commission on Appraisal is the group that leads efforts to examine where we are in our broader movement and what future directions we need to be taking. Members are elected by the General Assembly each June these days, and they represent the denomination over a 6-year term of office. They are staggered. Their current focus is on the statement of purposes and principles, and our congregation is participating with the Commission in assessing their proposed changes. 2007, remember. We will be conducting a workshop after the service. You remember having some of these workshops yourself in recent months about the current set of changes that are being proposed? We did that in 2007 as well. Are these principles and purposes adequate? Do they need changing? Modest change or radical change? Your participation is important. And what we see as our fifth principle, the one about democratic process, we see it as real. For this community to help guide our movement in years to come, I am thankful. What I shared this morning has been mostly a reflection on our first principle, the one many UUs think is the most important one. You see, our ethical foundation is the basis for our ongoing faith tradition. We are capable of reinventing ourselves, as we have on many other occasions in our history. As need has arisen. Of course, I ended, now back to the present. Of course, I ended that 2007 sermon with a good Unitarian prayer. Of course, that's one that's addressed to no one in particular. I said, "Let us be thankful for the many things in our lives, but let us also be thankful that we are part of a movement that has the institutional courage to engage in serious introspection and possibly change and reinvent itself. Together, we can help decide if we're fighting fires with the best kind of water. Indeed, may it be so. And so today, 2025, we are anticipating even more change in our beliefs, stated beliefs, written in the UUA's bylaws, Article 2. It looks as if the 7 principles will disappear. Their sentiments of purpose and belief will remain, however, just in a little wordier, less dramatic fashion, less dramatic format. So I'm kind of prepared to bid goodbye to the 7 principles with a very, very special, very heartfelt farewell to the first. But let us not fret. We will persevere as a liberal religious movement. We will continue to make differences and continue to seek truth and justice. And let us always seek to fight fires with the best kind of water and embrace change as we continue the journey. May it be so, and amen.
Our final hymn today is We Would Be One, number 318 in the gray hymnal, 318.
To
In closing, changes abound. May we each find the balance point we need as we have through our changing world, our ever-changing world. The balance between the old and the new, between the known and the unknown, between the familiar and perhaps risky possibilities that may be there, waiting for us on our journey to the future. May it be so. Amen.
May the fourth be with you and your family and your friends. May the fourth be with your neighborhood and your city and country too. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, 9 billion years ago and counting, a fantastical adventure was created. A space fairy tale in the Milky Way. May the fourth be with you and your family and your friends. May the fourth be with you as you celebrate Star Wars Day today.
We hope you have found meaning in today's service. The chalice is now extinguished, but its light lives on in the hearts, minds, and spirits of each one of us. Carry that flame with you as you leave this place and share it. Share it with those you know, with those you love, and most especially with those you've yet to meet.